Hello everyone, my name is Hallie Huber and I am so excited to host the 6th episode of WIT Talk here in the Spark Studio. Today I will be talking with Sonya Bailor, CEO of Bailor Group, a woman-owned strategic business growth consultancy here in Huntsville, Alabama. We will discuss Sonya's career in depth as well as her strength of resilience, which has enabled her to blossom into the consultant she is today. Let's get started. So, Sonya, thank you so much for being here on WIT Talk with us. How are you?
I'm great. Good to see you again.
I know.
Good to be here.
It was great to see you at the Women in Tech event, which you were an amazing speaker
Thank you.
for. It was the Turn Fear into Power event,
Yes.
I believe. Oh my gosh, so impactful.
It was awesome. The line of just people, not only for pictures, but to tell their stories and what impact it already had is the only reason we do things.
Oh my goodness, it was so impactful, especially just as a young college student hearing how to turn fear into success. Thank you so much for that.
Thank you.
That was awesome.
Glad you were there.
Of course. So why don't you tell me a little bit about yourself, Sonya?
Ooh, that's a short question for a long answer.
I know.
You told me you'd listen to a couple of my other podcasts.
Yes.
So
very amazing.
thank
Love
you.
listening to them.
Instead of going into the whole thing, I guess, well, first off, I'll start super basic. I'm Sonya Bailor, born and bred California girl, the good kind. It truly is the Golden State, though. There's so much to do. The weather's amazing. The terrain is great. I love palm trees and sand, so now I go to Florida often. But yeah, I've had many lives. The joke is we've lost count of how many lives I had, and I don't want to count because I don't want to know I'm at 9.
Oh, no.
And then I'm in like a Puss in Boots movie where I'm trying to save that last life.
Oh, my gosh. I love it.
So yeah, I'm going to brush over beginning part of life and just summarize it, right? So
Yeah.
we don't have to give trigger warnings. This is just a
Right.
super high level. Well, I'll give a little one. I have a very colorful, I'll use that word, colorful upbringing in a negative way, negative colors. So if any potential stories might trigger you, here's your trigger warning. I will not go into detail though. So yeah, negative upbringing in the point of extremely abusive household and then a kidnapping.
Oh, my gosh.
I was 6.5. We were missing for 6.5 months, found on the other side of the country in a raid. And then that put me in the state system. You were telling me earlier that you heard about that.
Yeah.
So orphanage, foster home, the whole thing. And 2.5 years later, we miraculously have our mother back, our birth mother, which is huge. I'm
wow.
adopted. I have an adopted daddy. The good news at the end of all the things is my daddy is a man who worked on righting the wrongs.
Oh, I see.
So in addition to being like, hey, if these are ultra traumatic and it takes all these good, what all good can we feed you in every day to outweigh negatives? But also let me show you what a man is supposed to be.
I love that.
So it's super special. And I am 100% daddy's girl because of it. So I like that outside of that, I don't have this fear of people,
Right.
fear of men, fear of life. But he also equipped us with self-reliance.
Yeah.
If you've been through all of this stuff, what can I equip you with? And this is good for every parent. What can I equip my children with as you move forward in life later? What can I equip them with so they're good when I'm not there anymore, right? So instead of just your schooling and instead of just good character and values and moral, what else can I equip you with so that nobody can take advantage of you?
Right.
So that you're good on your own and better with someone who compliments you,
Right.
right? So it was auto shop.
Mm.
So not just home ec as a chick. How can you make sure when you go to get your oil change, they can't put one over on you and tell you need $15,000 worth of something else?
Oh my gosh, don't get me started on that.
Yeah, it's a tiny weird. It's real though.
Yes, it's so
How to cook, right? So we all learned how to sew.
Oh, wow.
So that you could tailor your own things. You could, because when you were commenting earlier about the budget of a college student.
Oh my gosh.
Right? Imagine if you could go thrifting and already had a machine that was handed down to you and you knew how to take them all in, so everything looked like $1 million still.
Exactly.
So it's just neat skills.
Yeah.
And we're skilled in other things, but he was like, what can I do to make sure you are equipped? And so stuff can't happen to you, or that you're equipped if things do attempt to happen to you.
Right.
Down to self-defense. And the number one thing, and I'll give to every viewer, situational awareness. So you have self-awareness, which is being aware of when you're being an idiot or not, right? Am I being kind in this situation? And am I being self-aware of how I'm treating others and myself and all the things? So self-awareness is one of the biggest values you can have in yourself.
Oh, for sure.
But on the outside, as I'm walking through a parking lot, how can I be self-aware of my surroundings? Because that's the one thing. If you're on your phone and not paying attention, especially as a girl, you're a girl, a lot of your audience is women, without looking or feeling in fear, because you don't have to be in fear.
Right.
Right? And I'm not going to have to look around everywhere to make sure.
Right.
But I can see reflections in cars and know if someone's following me. I can keep my head up instead of down. And if I see a weird vehicle, maybe walk back inside and ask if there's a security guard that can walk me to my car. I've done that tons of times. But it also comes from I've lived almost every statistic that a human can live.
Yeah.
And so I know they're not just statistics. They could happen to anybody. So just be aware of your surroundings, number one. And never fear asking for help. In everything in life, right? Like, I'm getting behind on my schoolwork. I guarantee you every teacher on this campus wishes more children just came and said, hey, I could use some extra help, because all of them don't get asked. But they're doing it. People aren't teachers for the money. Right?
That's their job.
But they do it because they love it.
Too. Yeah.
Right. So no matter what you do for a living, I guarantee your boss would be like, hey, I'm not getting something. Would you like to mentor me? Right? If there's someone that's doing what you want to do in life, I would love to be mentored by you. Do you have any time?
Yeah.
Like, the amount of people that just don't get asked but would do it if we're asked, never be scared to ask.
Exactly. You miss out on 100% of the chances you don't take.
Right.
Exactly. So I love all that advice that you gave right there, Sonya. That is amazing.
So that's from Daddy.
Yes, I love that.
Daddy said 3 things in life, and such a tangent, but it's totally worth it.
No, you're good.
That I still use to this day in business, in personal life, and everything. Number 1 is always take the meeting. You can always walk away. You can always say no. And the second thing goes with why you always take a meeting. And his next advice is everybody is one connection or relationship away from everything changing. And you never know who that somebody's going to be.
Right.
Right? So always take a meeting, and you're always one connection or relationship away from everything in life changing. And then the other thing is very business. When I started working, so Daddy owned a trucking company, built it from the ground up, launched it. It wasn't a family household of, like, you're in college, going to things. My children lived the whole real college life of living on campus, getting the full degrees, all of that. That didn't exist in my family.
Oh, I see.
It was, what skill do you have? What do you enjoy doing? How can you make money at it?
Yeah.
Very different upbringing.
Right.
And so when I decided to go to college, now you already heard I was a ballerina. My degree path is choreography, not a normal schooling, didn't live on campus, very specialized. You had the Huntsville Ballet in here yesterday, and I saw it. I liked it. Yay! And so even that wasn't normal, but that's what I want. I had my life mapped out for forever. I retired with a neck injury. That's why I do real job now.
Oh my goodness. Yeah,
I had
ballet
no
is
intention.
hardcore.
It is. But like we were saying before this aired, discipline.
Yes.
You know, I have a natural hip turnout. So after 8 hours a day of training and dancing, I stayed for an extra 2 hours with a tutor just to morph my bones and do the whole thing so I could be at par, let alone at the top. But that created a work ethic. Now, my daddy and my mom can outwork anybody.
Oh, yeah.
So work ethic is massive. And discipline, consistency. What is ballet? Doing the same thing every day. Expert isn't made by learning big techniques. It's by learning over and over and over and over the same 5 things, to where it's not until where you get it right, it's where you can't get it wrong.
Exactly.
Right? It's such muscle memory. And Daddy told me one thing, that in any position.
Yeah.
So what is it you want to do when you grow up?
Oh my goodness. So as of right now, I'm planning on going into public relations, but of course that can change, you know.
Why?
I just find that crafting messages and trying to reach out to people is super interesting. I also just have a side interest of like psychology, sociology, and all that sort of stuff as well. I like knowing why people work.
Human behavior.
It's
exciting, isn't it?
Oh my gosh. That's like one of my most favorite things right now.
Same.
Podcasts, books, all that stuff. I'm obsessed with it.
So I'm going to give you one tiny piece of advice.
Okay.
Public relations is one of many ways to get the same outcome.
Okay.
So stay open, stay curious.
Okay.
And outcome in mind can happen in multiple ways.
Okay.
So just go after the outcome and the impact you want to make.
Oh, I see.
And go after that in whatever position you ever hold.
Okay.
And so this full circle to it, Daddy, the third piece of advice is every position, from the janitor to the administrator, the admin to the CEO, every single position in a company can affect the bottom line and make money for a company. It's not just salespeople. You know, because just think, if you're an office assistant, you could find a new supply or a new vendor for paper. Save $1,000 a year for a company. You've just affected $1,000 a year on the bottom line for a company and made them money without being in sales.
Exactly.
Right? You could also become more efficient at what you do and now have room to do other skills. Now you're worth more than just one person to them.
Oh, I see.
Right? So you can improve processes, become more efficient, save money, and then just outright make them money.
Right.
So no matter the position, your value is what you can find to become more valuable for them. And if you have that mindset going to work, so speaking into your future, if you have that mindset going to work with anybody, you will be the most valuable player there.
Wow. I love that. Thank you for bestowing that wisdom on me.
It's good, though.
It is
great.
great.
So now I run a growth strategy consulting firm.
Yeah.
So all we do is scale companies. So we make them more efficient, operationally, processes, systems. I'm a data geek, so I have to know all the things to know. It's like a puzzle piece.
Oh,
You have to know like all these little pieces on the wall in here. Without knowing how many there are, we don't know how to put them up to make sure they're evenly spaced, random. It's a super random analogy. However, without knowing all the pieces of a puzzle, you can't put it together and solve it. Right? So I have to know all the things, and then we come in and we're fixing the inside to make sure they're ready for each level of growth, to make sure they're capable of handling each level of growth, and then we just grow them.
Yeah.
And not all growth is good growth. You can kill a company by growing too fast.
Right. Which too much of something can
bad. Too much of anything.
backfire.
Right?
Yeah.
There's more parent language. Too much of anything is bad.
Oh my gosh.
So that right there, what Daddy taught me to do as a good person working up in corporate and up in careers, now you can go inside any company and teach them how valuable they could be no matter what they do.
Oh,
so you can flip it on the other side too.
Wow.
Yeah.
I
good.
love that advice. Well, why don't you tell us a little bit about what motivated you after you stopped dancing?
That was rough. So I retired with a severe neck injury.
Oh my gosh.
So I was carried out on a stretcher and was in a neck brace for like 8 months. It was not pretty. That face on your face right now was
jaw dropped right now. Oh my gosh.
It was very painful. And the pain lasts, like you still always are going to have stuff.
But the weather's a little bad, then it flares up.
We joke this is my barometer.
Oh no.
I can tell you how close a storm is, how bad it's going to be.
That's how it is with my ankle.
The thing is, everybody who's played professional sports or had injuries, you have that part of your body that can literally tell you the weather.
Yep.
Mine's my neck.
Mine's my foot.
Yep. It's real.
It's so real.
It's funny because it's true.
It's so true. Anyway, so what motivated you after that?
So I wasn't motivated for a little bit.
Oh. Wow.
I sat around for about a year like, what the F do I do now?
Yeah, that's a big change.
Yeah, and I'm a planner by nature.
Girl, me too.
And so I had my entire life planned. I knew what I was going to do when I graduated. I went to a college that fed into Hollywood. I told you I'm from California.
Yeah.
And so my college was the one that even their marching band was in all the movies. Like the dance team was in the movies. The dancers fed into like I did it. I was very on purpose with. I've always been very on purpose with everything I did.
Yeah.
And that stemmed from. I'll step back to this and then go forward because this is a huge thing I learned in life. That stemmed from when we got out of the state system. There's two things that happen. Number one, when you get out of the state system, they put you in kind of mandatory court-ordered therapy.
Oh, I see.
Which is, and what they do is they teach you how to process trauma, right? How to process when bad things happen, which is something that everybody should take in school. Everyone should have to take a psychology class to understand how to process life.
Oh, for sure.
Because
life is hard.
Life, yeah, it is. It can be, I'm not going to curse,
Yeah.
It happens.
It does.
Blank
I get
happens,
what you mean.
right? Forrest Gump nailed it. Blank happens.
Exactly.
And so that taught you that.
Right.
But it doesn't mean it teaches you what to do with triggers. And we talked about this in the workshop you came to, the speaking engagement of how to turn fear into power. So it wasn't until I was right in there, sometime 14 to 16.
Yeah.
My mommy was watching an infomercial.
Okay.
Those were all the rage in the 90s. And Tony Robbins came on.
Okay.
Probably like a 2 a.m. infomercial because that's when they were huge. And I still own it. It still sits on my bookshelf. It was called Personal Power 2. And it was a CD set, a 30-day program that she bought. And I've gone through it multiple times. I've re-listened to it multiple times. And now I don't have a CD player, but I still keep it because technology.
Exactly.
Always changing.
Gosh, I know.
But this CD set, and it was somewhere in the first 5 CDs of the whole set. It's like a massive, massive little set.
Yeah.
And he talked about that our brains are capable of rewiring and reassociating fears and triggers.
Oh.
And someone that came out of so much bad, so much horror, I had every trigger.
Right.
Like I had the sound triggers, the physical triggers, all of them.
Yeah.
The smell triggers, the taste triggers, every trigger you can think of, I had a piece of. And so when I heard that, I have listened to that CD more times than the rest. I'm sure it's worn down, if CDs can be worn down. And it was a rabbit hole. And you talk about human behavior, all of a sudden I became a study in my early teenage years of how to reassociate triggers, that you can actually take a fear and make it work for you instead of against you. And that was the workshop you listened to, how like it's literally, I have that since created an entire program and have since created an entire single tool worksheet and an instructional thing around it. I don't know if you downloaded the workbook that went with it. But it's real, right? And it's kind of like a word math formula. How can I put these pieces in place? And that's what I created. If you turn this into a word formula, how can somebody do this without having done all the study that I've done? Right. And how can I use it on repeat against myself? Because that's the whole thing. Our minds can mess us up. You know, and we can blame situations. We can blame circumstances. We can blame, well, I didn't have this upbringing. My upbringing is blank show.
Yeah.
Right? It is crap. I was dealt a bad hand. Yeah, me too. Right? Like, I didn't have money, neither did we.
Yeah.
You know, I wasn't raised in the best neighborhood. Yeah, I didn't either. I have a knife scar on my face from being jumped by a gang. Like, right? So there's all these, like, think of any excuse your situations or your circumstances could be, but the thing is, we have the power to write our story.
Right.
Right? And now, I did have something that other people didn't.
Oh, yeah?
I had a mother who bought me a Tony Robbins CD set and who made me go to church and who made me listen to Zig Ziglar and all these other motivational speakers to fill me with all the positive to attempt to outweigh the negative. And that was powerful. And it was life-changing. And I am truly a product of mentoring and coaching.
Wow.
And so now I have a huge mentoring and coaching thing that I do. I do a ton of pro bono coaching too, because I feel that, and for every professional listening to this, or anybody who has successfully come out of bad, please know that if you have a story to tell, do not think it's not important, because there is somebody who doesn't have someone to mentor them, and somebody who feels they're alone in it, and that they're the only ones. And even though they hear about it, they don't know anybody that's been through stuff either.
Right. And
Please reach out and give back. I think once we have all achieved a piece of success at any level, and you may not think you're successful enough to mentor, but even you as a college student, there may be somebody who doesn't have access to go to college.
Right.
What can you even give back to somebody else that may not have your confidence, who may not have a dad that went in radio, and who may not be confident speaking in front of anybody, or even behind a mic without people in front of them, right? We all have something we can tell somebody else to have a ripple effect that you may never know if it's done anything or not. And I just feel that if we truly want this world to be better and make a ripple effect, it all starts with us.
Oh, yeah. I agree with that.
And it's tiny things like kindness.
Oh, that's so
right?
important.
You have no clue if your smile is the only one somebody receives that day. No clue. And you have no clue if my mommy told me something once.
Okay.
How to be genuine with a compliment.
Oh.
Right? If you were forced to compliment every single person that you came to, not everybody is likable. Right?
Yep.
Not everybody, maybe they're just having a bad day and they're being mean and rude. Maybe they're not attractive at all. Maybe what they're wearing is dirty and ugly and not on fashion. And so maybe it's near impossible to find something to compliment them on to be genuine. But people know if you're being genuine or not.
Oh, yeah.
And so I used to make it a game of how can I compliment each person that I look at that gives me eye contact back. And sometimes it's as simple as if I don't like anything on them, but the thread color in their shirt I can genuinely speak to. Like that seems tiny, right?
Yeah.
But imagine if I came to you and go, I love the blue in that shirt.
That would make my day.
Immediately. Because here's the thing, you picked out that shirt.
Exactly.
Or let's say if it's the only one you own and all of a sudden I like the blue color in it. I may think the shirt is hideous.
Right. Then that could have a ripple
But I
effect
can
and
speak
be
to
like,
that color.
ooh, everything
Right?
blue now.
And sometimes if I can't find anything, I'll even just be, because here's the thing, the eyes are the window to
The soul.
the soul. And if that means I see you, I can be like, I like that blue in your eyes. So that also means that I looked at you and I took the time.
Right.
Right? It's the tiniest thing that can literally change somebody's entire course of the day, which can have a ripple effect you will never know.
It's all the little things that can add up. Because I know that something small bad happens, and then another thing, and then another thing, and then another thing, and then another thing. And then you look back at the end of the day and you're like, oh my goodness, what all went wrong? It's just that ripple effect. And that one small act can totally
There is a reel that went around, and it goes around every couple years on repeat. And it's somebody having a really bad day, and one person decides to stop. And it shows you all of it as if nobody stepped in, and how bad. And one person got mad at somebody else because their husband yelled at them, and then she treated somebody badly, and then they did something, and then they saw something happen, and they just didn't even bother to tell the person it happened, and then it kept going, and everybody made the world worse. And it had a major compounding effect.
Yeah.
And then they showed you another scenario where, I'm going to make something up, a lady's walking by and her baby dropped something and is crying. She doesn't know the baby dropped something. And then that baby cries into a restaurant, and that makes this other couple enraged. That makes them treat the waitress badly, and that makes, imagine this ripple effect, right?
Oh my gosh, yeah.
And then she treats the customers badly, and then because of that, he goes off on road rage, and because of that, he ends up like on and on and on. But instead, it started with one person picking up the baby's toy. Baby doesn't cry. This couple doesn't get in an argument because they weren't annoyed.
Right.
The waitress got a good tip. She treats everyone amazingly. And then it goes on and on and on and on. And everybody not only had great days, but the compounding effect was everyone kept helping somebody else because somebody even just saw them do that, and that made them want to do something else.
Exactly. So important. All the small acts.
Tiny acts. So, and I just, massive tangent, but so valuable.
No, you're good.
So back then in Zig Ziglar and Tony Robbins and all that. So I do have that not everybody has.
Right.
Right. And that's what took me down the tangent of, I think we're all responsible to whatever we have that we're capable of sharing to share.
Right.
And I had a family who was dead set on not letting the cycle repeat.
Right.
And even though they didn't know what was going to work and not work, they just kept trying things.
Right. I mean, that's good though.
It is good. And then so fast forward, you asked, this all started because of ballet.
Yeah.
Right? And then I retire. And so what did I do? And so the reason why I didn't know what to do for a year is because my plan was Hollywood. Right. My plan was to dance at a super high level professionally until I'm old, which in professional dancer terms means you're in your mid-30s.
Exactly.
And you're an old person unless you're Baryshnikov or Tom Brady in football.
Gosh, I know.
But even then, 40s. Now you're like, oh, he's so old. And that makes me right now so old because I'm 46. But, which I remember when I was 20. Good God, that seems old. But now I feel like I'm 20 still, so it's
right. Fine. That's good though.
But then my plan was to choreograph for Hollywood. I wanted to be Gene Kelly reincarnated. I don't know if you're too young to know who that is.
Oh, I love Gene Kelly.
Oh, amazing.
Oh my God.
And But that didn't happen. Right? All of my dreams were crushed because there's no way you can even physically complete any of it.
Right.
So I sat around for a year, real answer, depressed.
Understandable.
What do I do now?
Yeah.
I have no clue. My whole life was mapped out for me. I was in a young adult class because at that point I'm 20, 21. Mm-hmm. And I'm at church. I was a member of the young adult group, and we're in there. And I was really upset because I still had the neck brace, and all I could do, sitting was bad for my spine, so I couldn't sit very much.
Oh, wow.
And so you're just left to standing up or laying down.
Oh, gosh.
And so I made the mark of standing up is up and down, and laying down was like this. And the young adult leader, like you, just starts laughing at me. I'm like, what are you? And I'm angry. What are you laughing at?
And then I would start crying if I were you.
And she was like, well, you just drew the shape of a cross in your hand, so maybe it's time for you to give up planning your own life and wait and see what God has for you. I'm like, oh, that's just mean. It was, so I still sat around for a year like, okay, fine. Well, what is it next?
Yeah.
I got nothing. No
Right.
plan. And it wasn't until I had one of my mummy's friends was the executive director of a healthcare. So I am a product of life happening for me.
Yeah.
So when Tony Robbins says the whole thing, that you may love him or hate him, but he has wisdom,
Right.
right? And not everybody agrees with everything he says, but I tell you, the pieces that I've pulled, I've used to this
Yeah.
day. And one of the things is taking a mentality that life happens for you, not to you. And it is hard. How is this for me? I don't know yet.
Right.
It's okay to, I don't know.
Yeah.
I'm not going to blame it though. It's what do I do with it?
Right.
I'm nothing. Let's just start over.
Exactly.
Starting over is okay. That's a good answer.
Yeah.
Nothing wrong with starting over. I've done it multiple times. Every time you do, you know more than last time, so it'll come back faster.
Exactly.
You're good.
Exactly.
You're good. And I was in a coaching session today, and that was it. It might just be something else, and that's okay. How exciting.
Woo.
Can't wait to see what it is.
New horizons.
And my mommy's friend happened to be an executive director of a private pay assisted living residence.
Okay.
And she came to me one day and she was like, hey, I have an opening for a marketing position, like a marketing director of this whole thing. I think you'd be great. I think you're made for this.
Whoa.
And my answer was, yeah, I don't want like a corporate real job. That's not what I'm made for. And she kind of laughed at me and then was like, why don't you just try it? Just trust me. Just try it. If you don't like it, leave.
Right. It
Just
doesn't
try
hurt
it.
to try.
And so daddy's advice, always take a meeting, right?
Exactly.
You never know. So I tried it.
Mm-hmm.
Turns out I was made for it.
Oh.
I was the trainer for the national brand in a year and a half. It just, so it's comical. So think of dancing.
Yeah.
Right? And choreography. As a dancer, as a choreographer, your only job is to captivate an audience,
Yeah.
take them on a journey, and tell a story without words.
Right. That's a lot. And also make it look effortless too.
Well, that's with years of repetitive tasks.
Exactly.
But now let's think of branding and marketing.
Yeah.
So back then, this is in the early 2000s, and the power of brand and brand story and all of that was not a trend yet.
Oh.
But that's all I knew how to do naturally,
Right.
right?
Yeah.
And so I step into this, no marketing training, no marketing schooling, no job ever in real work before this besides accounting for my parents' trucking company. I could do CPA level work,
Right.
but to me, numbers didn't talk back and that was boring.
Understandable.
But shout out to all the CPAs out there. You're needed too.
You're fantastic. We love you. We love you.
And so all I did naturally, and she didn't even tell me what to do. She's like, just do what you think it needs and let's see what happens. She just left it open for me.
Oh my God.
Which is brave on her part.
Yeah.
Looking back, I've never actually thought about that till now.
Oh God.
Very brave. And I started with just telling these people stories and then going out to the senior centers and telling the stories of the people in here and lining up, journeys and talking about that. Yeah. And it worked. We were on the front cover of every paper almost every month. We were, and back when newspapers were a thing. And I shot up the corporate ladder really quickly.
Wow.
And then got transferred with that position and then went to another one, and I've worked in all over now. And so fast forward, I've held almost every position in corporate, in marketing.
Yes.
And so that's my professional background now.
Right.
Still no degree to go with it.
That's still awesome, though. Like, just being able to do that and be like, okay, I'm going to go for it.
Right.
And that bravery and Resilience. That's awesome.
So 2015, I left corporate.
Okay.
And what's not out online, or you would never put on a resume, is when I left corporate, it was the CFO of the company and I actually went in together and launched a fashion design house.
Ooh.
Yeah, it was super fun. We had a profit center and a cost center. Cost center was we were creating a whole brand.
Oh, wow.
We were creating a whole line.
Mm-hmm.
I had gotten known for, again, remember I learned how to sew.
Oh, yeah?
And my taste at this point, after working in the fashion industry for a long time, I've been healthcare, I've been several industries, and I ended in consumer goods, fashion, and home deck on a very big level, office in Manhattan, office in Nashville. It was so fun.
Sounds like it.
And I was also, part of my job at this one was to be on the red carpets, to be at the galas, paid.
Yeah.
And to be at the fashion openings and all the things. So it was a really girls' dream, fun fashion job.
Yeah.
And home deck and craft space. And it's like it was in all of these. We were the manufacturer, so we had a portfolio of like 20 brands.
Oh, my God.
And so I had a very fun run in my 30s with this company. And so when I left, my budget while I was there, wrong word, my taste to be on the red carpets and to be at these things. I told you I own my first piece of Dior, a little vintage blazer that I have with me today.
Hey, cute.
But that was like the epitome. Christian Dior in the fashion space for all the fashion geeks out there there's nothing top that.
Right.
And there's no way a company is going to pay you to wear that on a red carpet. It doesn't matter how cool you think you are.
Exactly.
Or want to be.
Right.
So I started making. If I was going to be photographed all these times, and if I was going to be the face of this thing, and if I was going to be out at all the things, my mother and grandmother taught us to be master seamstresses just because we had to be skilled.
Exactly.
And how to take care of ourselves.
Right.
So I started making pieces and got known for these backless dresses.
Oh.
In a very unique backless style.
Okay.
And it got picked up by one of the people involved with London Fashion Week and some other photographers to ask if I was going to create a whole line. And I was like, no, I'm just making this for me. But it sparked a thing, opportunity, leverage, timing in the market. And I had a lot of connections after working in this and being at that level. You have a lot of connections.
Yeah.
So the CFO and I got together like, well, timing is good.
Exactly.
You got the skill. It's already getting noticed. Let's go ahead and do a thing. So we had this whole collection being designed.
Oh, my gosh.
I own a couple pieces still.
Ooh.
And then the profit center we were a contract design house. So let's say a music label, merch, you can go buy a band's t-shirt or whatever.
Right.
So let's say they wanted custom merch for their stuff. We could create all of that. Or if you just wanted a custom gown created, we had seven staff. We had pattern makers and seamstresses and cutters and all the things.
Yeah.
And I got to play as a designer. So it was super
Real
fun.
life Barbie dress up.
Super.
Oh.
It only existed for about a year.
Yeah.
And then my son got brain cancer, which you heard on the other one. And so that's the business that I shut down and moved into the hospital.
Wow.
So I just said on the other podcast, I stopped working and I shut everything down and I went in there. That's what I was doing. And we've deleted everything online because it was only there for a year. And it wasn't a passion project. It was a good timing in the market and I had the skills and we had the things. But after I got out of the hospital, all of them had other jobs now and all of that. I was in the hospital for over a year. But on the back end, I got to do that. I own a couple of the pieces still.
Yeah.
And it was super great. And then we snowballed into what I do now, which is what I did for corporate. So my last role wasn't just marketing.
Oh, I see.
My last role was how do we get this company in 5 years to be sellable? Which not only meant let's do the growth strategy externally, but the inside had to have the valuation. It had to be not just scalable, but it had to be sellable. So I learned a whole new piece of a math puzzle that for somebody like me, and I happen to also get bored easily. So
Understandable, me too.
And so for somebody like that, it was every day is a different puzzle, even for the same client. And it's very complex.
It sounds complex.
It's exciting though, because it's always, every day you get to learn more and every day you get to do, but also every day you get to prove.
Right.
Every day I have to prove again. And I kind of like that.
Yeah.
It is definitely not for the weak. It is definitely not for the timid. Can't handle stress, wrong job for you. But it is exciting and it snowballed. A few months after we got out of the hospital, I had a CEO that I had known and had been a client in another arena before. And he messaged me. He's like, hey, what are you doing? Are you relaunching your your design house thing? I was like, well, I don't know. I'm pretty sure all my people have different jobs now. I'd have to rebuy all the equipment. I gave the equipment away as their severance package. That's all we could do. You guys can at least go pick up work on your own and do that until you can get something else.
Yeah.
While I was in the hospital with my son. And so equipment's gone, people are gone. I was like, yeah, he's like, I have a proposition for you. Like, okay. And he was like, do you think you could do here in my company what you did on that scale for the big company? Meaning, here's my issue, because every company's internal scalability and external growth are all different. There is no one case scenario.
Right.
And they're all in different stages and they're all in a different thing. And his thing was he was, XYZ. This was his thing. Can you get it to this point? Here's my budget. Wow. And I was like, I think so. Let's go.
Dang.
And proved it. We did it. It's hugely successful. Mm-hmm. And then another CEO heard about that. He's like, hey, here's my situation. Can you do that here too? Yeah, let's go. Proved it there. Completely different industry.
Yeah.
And then met the next CEO. He was like, hey, here's my issue. I'm like, let's go fix it.
Yeah.
And that snowballed into 4.5 years of what I joked about. I'm a fixer.
Right.
So I'd get to just fix it and grow it. Yeah. And then I met again, mentoring and coaching, always take a meeting.
Yeah.
I met a gentleman at every C-suite has, and I think you've seen on my social media, I also have a CEO peer group that I lead in town called Vistage.
Okay.
And every C-suite position, chief financial officer, chief information officer, chief marketing officer, chief executive officer, all the C's. Yeah. Each C group has a membership organization that they can be a part of. Oh. They all have their own.
Okay.
CEOs have more than others to choose from. And the one that I've chosen to be a part of is called Vistage, and I lead a group here in town. But when I was going up the marketing ladder and made it up to C-suite and marketing, there's something called, it's the only, comically as marketers, it's the only one without a cool name.
Oh,
it's just called, wait for it, the CMO Club. It is what it is.
It is what it is.
Great organization, though. And same thing. You have to be the head of marketing, and you have to be this and that. There's an application process, a vetting process, the whole thing. So I was a member of that forever.
Yeah.
And so I'm involved in the CMO Club, and we have summits that you can go to. So there's 3 summits, 2 in the United States, 1 in France. And this is one of the ones here.
Okay.
I never went to the France one.
Ah, darn.
I know. Me too. And so this one was in Florida, and I'm there, and we were in one of the breakout sessions, and I'm at the same table with this gentleman. His name's Roland.
Okay.
And great man. And I'm pretty active in this session. I wasn't leading it. I was just at a table.
Yeah.
But I was pretty involved and pretty active and doing a lot of Q&A with the whole room.
Yeah.
And afterwards, he's waiting at the door. He left before me. Some people had pulled me aside. I'm chit-chattering, and we get to I walk out the door, and he's standing there and grabs my arm. He was like, hey, who are you? I was like, hi, I'm thinking just an introduction. Hey, my name's Sonya. He goes, so what do you do? Like, what's your position? Because everyone there has a position, and I'm the CMO of this, or I'm the VP of marketing for this, and I'm this and that. He was a consultant for all of these big companies as, well, let's say, an extension of their CMO self. Yeah. When projects were too big or they needed to launch in a new market share and they could stay focused on their business, he steps in and has his team that steps in and takes things to new levels.
Yeah.
And he was like, so what do you do? Who do you work for right now? And I was like, well, actually, and I had just left my last contract on my own as an independent. I didn't even know it was called consulting. I thought that was a 4-letter word.
Right.
I had a bad tinge in my mouth for the word consultant.
Yeah.
Though that's what I was doing without knowing it.
Right.
Which is probably why I called it I'm a fixer. Because I didn't want to say I was a consultant.
Right.
But it was one company at a time at that point.
Okay.
And I was like, well, actually, I just left my last contract. And in that world, we called it you're being a free agent, like in professional sports. I'm a free agent.
Oh, okay, got you.
And that's kind of like the play on words there. And I was like, so technically I'm a free agent right now. And he goes, well, he's like, I haven't met somebody with your breadth of industries you've worked with.
Yeah, because you have a lot of experience in a lot of different fields.
But the depth of knowledge in one lane. Mm-hmm. And he goes, that's consulting, and you need to be a one-to-many consultant. So when I was doing it after corporate, it was one company at a time.
Oh, I see.
So a company would be like, we need this, can you help us?
Yeah.
And so I was never an employee of those companies. I was consulting for them.
Right.
And I would help them get to whatever level it was, and then I would go to the next company, help them get to whatever the next level and fix this and fix that. And he was like, you need to be doing this. He goes, it is impossible to find someone with that broad of industries and best practices, but lane narrow focus.
Yeah.
And he's like, if you'd consider doing it, I'll coach you into it personally. I said no. Yep.
Oh.
Because remember, you remember about my son.
Mad.
Yeah, you heard the story already. So you know the ending of this already.
Oh, yes. But please tell the audience.
And so I said no.
Okay.
And because we had just rebuilt our lives now. Because what happened is, remember, I shut the company down, moved into the hospital for the year, and then we're just now rebuilding back. I sold the house. I had sold all the things when we got out of the hospital. Everything's gone. I'm back in a previous neighborhood, and we're rebuilding the bank account and rebuilding life. And so, yeah, I said no. And instead, I hired a company to make the first resume of my life. I didn't have a resume up till then. I was just stolen literally from job to job my whole life. Life happening for me.
Right.
I just allowed life to happen for me.
Exactly.
Great opportunity. Why not?
Yeah.
Right? So I went directly opposite from having my entire life planned out.
Oh my gosh, I know. That's what I was so curious about well, I'll get off on a tangent of, I guess, how were you able to adjust from that mindset? I know you said, like, let life happen for you, but instead of going from plan, this is how my life is going to be, this is how my life is going to be, to just letting it happen, how do you think that you were able to
So I'm going to be careful to say,
okay,
I never just wing it.
Because I know that there's
I
that
do not
advice
allow
of,
life to be in full control, and whatever happens, happens. And
just willy-nilly with it.
I am very intentional with everything that I do. However, I stay open to opportunity. So that's a difference.
That is a difference.
And when I'm in, I'm all in.
Right.
So I may not have intention of changing it again, but I am aware that I always take a meeting.
Yeah.
Right? I know I am always one relationship or connection. I'm calling it back. I'm always one relationship or connection from everything changing. And I'm not dead yet.
Yeah.
So until you put me in the ground, I'm going to keep going and keep making impact.
Yeah.
And so even if I am working somewhere, which now I run something, but if there's an impact to be made and you come with an opportunity, we're going to have a conversation.
Right.
Right? And because why not?
Yeah.
Because I can always say no.
Yeah.
I can always walk away.
Right.
And so that's what I mean by allowing life to happen for me. I'm always, but now like a ballerina.
Yeah.
Once you get into something, you're disciplined. You are the best worker there.
Yeah.
You know, I am making sure I am bringing value, adding value, making efficiencies. And so you can work up in a company.
Yeah.
Now, once you reach a limit, open to opportunities again. It doesn't mean I quit. I never leave myself on need.
Right.
You know, because now you're not being, you know, a good steward of your time, talents, or money.
Right.
And now at this point, when I left the last one,
Okay.
I did leave without something lined up for the first time.
Ooh.
Now I had an offer on the table,
Right.
which I didn't want to do. Not because I didn't think it was going to be great, because of the amount of stuff we had been through. I selfishly just wanted comfort. I just wanted a fat paycheck for a while.
Understandable. I get where you're coming from.
And after playing in corporate at such a high level, and then proving this concept of scalability and external growth for companies in 4 other different industries now for the last 4.5 years, my value had skyrocketed.
Right.
Right. So now I could go back to corporate in a C-suite and make a lot more.
Yeah.
You know, add another 6 figures to what I was already making before and have multiple 6 figures as a base salary. And that's enticing. And especially after we had just rebuilt after being in the hospital for a year. And now we had a few years under our belt of stuff coming in.
Yeah.
But if you're going to launch something, that goes back to having nothing.
Exactly.
You don't have a client base starting. You have 0.
Right.
You don't have a business model yet. You have, I know what I do in my head. You don't have processes. There's no systems. And I knew what to do.
Yeah.
But that means I have to build me and build a client and find more than one client at a time to do it as a business, not as a lifestyle consultant. So there's a lot weighing on that. And I'm also a single parent. So there's a lot more weighing on that. It's all on me. There is no safety boat. There is no second income. So that's a big decision.
Yeah.
Right? Am I willing to eat top ramen and feed my children top ramen for years and years. Thankfully, my children love top ramen.
I mean, I gotta admit, it's pretty good.
What they don't know is that came from being a really poor mommy and learning I can give you so many recipes.
Right.
I can tell you how to make top ramen egg drop soup, how to make beef stir fry with top ramen. I got all the top ramen recipes.
You're an expert with all those.
And tuna.
Ooh.
Tuna's the other trick.
Oh, okay.
Open face tuna melts. Ooh, another level.
Oh my gosh, now you're making me hungry.
All the poor kid food.
Oh, I see.
I know it all.
Yeah.
But that meant going back to that.
Oh, I see.
Right?
Yeah.
On purpose.
Mm.
On purpose.
Right.
Nobody chooses broke college kid life.
Nope.
You just know it's part of the path.
Yup.
But would you choose it again at 40 years old?
Ooh. That's a big, yeah.
So it's a big pride
Yeah,
thing
it is.
too, right?
It is a big, like,
All of
crush.
it.
Yeah.
So those are my choices.
Yeah.
Collect multiple six figures and do something I know how to do in my sleep now.
Mm-hmm.
Or eat top ramen as a 40-year-old for at least a year, if not 3.
Mm.
To me, it was a no-brainer.
Right.
Make my resume.
Yeah, exactly.
Let's start interviewing.
Yay!
And then you know this already, but I'll say it. And then several months later, I get a call from my daddy at 5 in the morning my time, and he was in California, so that's 3 in the morning. If you got a phone call at 3 to 5 in the morning from a parent, that's a dangerous situation. Something bad has happened.
Exactly.
Because that's not normal.
Right.
And so immediately I'm scared awake, startled awake.
Yeah, no.
And like, is everything okay?
Right. Going into panic mode.
Right. And daddy is a stoic man. And first words out of his mouth was a curse word. Sit the F up. I have 5 minutes. You have to hear what I have to say.
And then it's like, oh my God.
Now I'm scared.
Something is totally wrong
Right.
now.
Is mom okay?
Right.
Next thing out of my mouth, I'm assuming she's in the hospital.
Yep.
She's not alive.
Right.
I'm about to have a bad day. None of that. Just listen.
Ooh.
Yes, sir.
Yup.
Right?
Yeah, it's like, okay.
And then it was just, I have been praying for you and with you for the last several months, waiting for you to tell me you've made the right decision, and I haven't gotten the call, so I'm here to tell you what it is you're supposed to be doing. Now, I already told you I hadn't had a resume, and that's because people like that first lady, my mommy's friend, have been hand-plucking me
Right.
from position to position. And he was like, I have never seen this in my life of someone that is literally being picked from place to place. And now you've allowed it, because you have to allow it.
Right.
You have to say yes. You have to take the meeting. You have to know that it's one relationship or context. You have to have all those things in place to have that happen.
Yeah.
I feel that we will not even know opportunities there if we're not always ready for the opportunity. Ready means, like the ballerina, being disciplined, putting in the work on yourself, putting in the work for the thing so that if and when opportunity approaches, you can actually say yes to it.
Right.
Right. And it doesn't mean you have to believe in your head you're all the way there. It means you have to be willing to just jump and keep getting better on the way.
Yeah.
Right? You know, the lady I had speak with me talked about imposter syndrome.
Right.
That's real.
Oh,
We
gosh,
are
that
going
is
to
so
get in
real.
our own way more than anything in the world, more than any circumstance. We are the circumstance. Because the thing is, every circumstance in life, and you can hear, oh, it's just this, I don't want to go into victim mentality. But imagine if you have none of those and you're still a victim because you are in your own way.
Oh gosh, I feel like we are our own biggest
are.
stumbling block.
Stumbling
yeah,
block,
enemy.
all of it.
Yeah.
We get stuck in our heads and our minds. You heard me go comical. Our minds are stupid.
Yup.
Like, and it's the stupidest things, and we believe it.
Right. If I do this, then this is gonna happen, and then this is gonna
Right.
happen, and then blah 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 blah, and I'll end up all alone, and everything horrible happens.
Right. So why not put that mind on repeat? You already know the workshop.
Yup.
Why not put that mind on repeat? Opposite if we don't do it.
Right. Then,
Take
oh
those thoughts
crap.
back.
Yeah.
Right now, I better get my butt in gear.
Right.
Now all of a sudden you're a super active person and you're accomplishing stuff and knocking it out.
Exactly.
Use that crap against yourself.
Exactly.
And that's the workshop you took of mine too.
Exactly.
So this is daddy using
Yeah.
my own tools against me. And you already know the story, but
Yeah.
I'll say again, what are you scared of? I was like, Daddy, it's not that. You know what we've been through. Yes, I have 2 options on the table.
Yeah.
Let me just take a few years of padding our bank account back, do this, and then I'll jump into that. Because this is also jumping in without the padding still.
Oh gosh. That's
right?
why I put your topic for the day, which we'll get into some questions later about resilience, but that's what
Yeah.
it's all about, resilience.
It is. To go Annie, golly gee willikers. It is a big choice to choose to have to be resilient,
Oh gosh.
right?
Yeah.
So because what I wanted to do is the easier path.
Right.
Let me go and make an impact in one company in those people's lives and their customers, maybe if hopefully they do great work.
Right.
And then let me be really comfortable.
And then
And be in a
maybe dip my
nicer house
toes in the
again.
water. Yep.
And then I'll make a jump when I can fund it myself,
Exactly.
right? And then he says, you're being selfish. How does that sound selfish?
Right.
At all.
It's like, oh, well, I mean, I'm helping them out and stuff. Like, sure.
I'm helping us out.
Right. Exactly.
And then he questions me, right? Do you believe you're meant for impact? Do you believe that you can grow companies? Do you believe we're in a position in this world? This is at the precipice of the pandemic too.
Oh God. With that on
2019.
top of it too.
Right. Do you know that this is a time that it's needed more than ever? I'm like, oh, stop. If you're choosing not to go out and help, you're being selfish. If you know you can help and it's needed more now.
Yeah.
And there's the gut punch.
Right. Ooh.
And less than a 5-minute phone call.
Wow.
Cuts my knees off. And I texted my coach Roland, and I was like, I waited until a respectable 7:30 in the morning. And I texted him, and I was like, you're going to get a kick out of this. And I gave him a text message rundown of what my daddy said. My phone rings 30 seconds later.
Wow.
I'm so glad you told me that. I'm free this weekend. All you have to do is make it here. He's in Chicago.
Wow.
I will put you
And
through.
you were here in Huntsville?
Nashville.
Oh, Nashville. Oh, wow.
I will put you through the whole workshop to pull the processes from you, to package it, to build the foundation that you can then take to build the brand and to package the processes and do that. But I'll pull the information. Nobody can do their own.
Right.
So that's where I have clients that do exactly what I do.
Yeah.
He does exactly what I do. But it's hardest to tell your own story. Right? Have you ever tried to do marketing for yourself? Write your own bio?
Oh, it's so hard.
Much harder, but you can write other people's probably in your sleep. And I told him, give me a second, let me think about this. And I messaged my boyfriend who was on his way up for the weekend with me.
Okay.
And he just said, I'm not coming. I'm turning around. Pack your bags.
Wow.
I agree with your dad.
We love a supportive but still, it's
And
like,
here I am, so you know what I chose.
And that concludes part 1 of WIT Talk with Sonya Bailor. We hope that you'll stay tuned for part 2 of WIT Talk with Sonya Bailor to be released in October.